Action.
Okay. All right, yes. All right, reading comprehension, reading comprehension, reading comprehension. It is known by some people as the most difficult part of the TOEFL exam, but it's not actually the most difficult part if you really know what you're doing. Okay? So, here are the basics. What are our basics? So what are some of the basic things we know about the reading comprehension? Anybody?
Keywords.
No, not strategy.
Keywords.
No, not strategy.
Okay.
Just the basics of the exam
Matching.
itself.
Matching.
What? What was Cloud talking about?
Matching.
Base.
Matching. M-A-T-C-H-I.
4 passages.
Oh, okay. I know.
Right? Basics.
Okay.
Right? Basics. What else? They're how long?
1 hour.
1 hour.
And four passages.
How long is one passage?
20 minutes. 20 minutes.
5 minutes.
How many words?
How many words?
700.
Oh.
Right? About how long do you have to do a passage?
Like 20.
20 minutes, right?
Yeah.
How many questions in one passage?
14.
13 to 14. If it's one of those chart questions at the end, it'll be 13, because that question is worth 3 points. Right? So these are the basic fundamentals of reading comprehension. Okay? Basic fundamentals. All right. What kind of skills do you need to have to do well on reading comprehension? What are some good skills to have? You guys mentioned a couple of them already. Vocabulary. There's a direct correlation between how good your vocabulary is and how well you do on the TOEFL reading comprehension. The better your vocabulary, the better your score is going to be. Okay? And that's what happens. So that's extremely important. So when they say, for the TOEFL exam, you need to learn probably about 2,000 new words. If you really study and learn about 2,000 new words, you'll be in really good shape. Okay, really good shape. So if any of your friends ever ask you, if I'm interested in the TOEFL exam, what do I need to do? Tell them, learn a lot of vocabulary. Because that's something you can do on your own. You don't need another person for that. Okay? You have to be very good at recognizing synonym language. The better you are at recognizing synonym language, the easier reading comprehension is. Recognizing keywords. If you can recognize keywords, reading comprehension is easier. Okay, much easier. Reading only what is necessary. Right? That is a skill. On the TOEFL exam for reading comprehension, reading a lot does not give you more information. Reading more information makes you more confused. All right? So you have to know exactly the information you're supposed to read for reading comprehension. What else is a necessary skill? What else do you need to be able to do well?
Recognize the type of question.
Good. We'll come back to that one. Good. Scan. Being able to scan a paragraph quickly and find keywords. So being able to scan well helps you. There's a difference between scanning and reading. Big difference. Scanning is fast. Reading can be slow. All right. What would you say, Abdullah?
Recognize the type of question.
Yes. Recognizing the question type. Why is that a good skill to have, Abduella?
Because you know how to get the answer, from where you get the answer.
Exactly. If you recognize the question type, then you're able to recognize the strategy for that question. Exactly right, Ahmed. If you recognize the question type, then you can recall the strategy for that question and then apply it. Right? I don't want to get off topic, but whenever my strategy when I'm answering questions for the reading comprehension, I have a 3-step strategy that I use for any question. Not necessarily for the question itself, there's a strategy, but there's a 3-step process I go through every single time. Okay? And when I'm going through that 3-step process, I'm going to do 3 things very, very quickly. I'm going to recognize the question type. That's the first thing I'm doing very quickly. Takes 2 seconds. Right? After reading the question, you know what it is. My next step that I'm always doing is recalling the strategy for that question. The third thing I'm doing is applying that strategy. I'm doing those 3 things anytime I answer a question. Because if I can recall before I start answering the question, if I say, okay, this is a purpose question, right? I recognize it's a purpose question. What's my strategy? Read the keyword sentence, read the sentence before. Now go do it. Right? That's more efficient than reading the question and kind of start reading the paragraph and kind of remembering what you're. Don't do it that way. Quickly recognize question type, quickly recall strategy, then do the question. That'll keep you focused. Because remember, you're going to do 4 passages. Right? Hour and 20 minutes probably. And so if you can do this, having good habits on a standardized test keeps you focused. Because if you do this every single time, you'll always remind yourself what you're supposed to be doing. And it's very easy on a test like the TOEFL exam to become unconscious and still doing the test. Meaning you're doing the questions, but you're not thinking about what strategy you're supposed to be doing. You're trying to answer them, but you're not consciously of exactly what you're supposed to do. All right? So this is exactly, for me, very, very helpful. It keeps me on track. Okay? But yes, these are necessary skills. If we're able to do these skills well, we can do very good on the TOEFL reading comprehension. All right? So, for reading comprehension, we have different question types. All right? And what we're going to do is we're going to look at the strategy to do each question type, and then we'll look at a passage and try and apply that strategy. Another thing that you have to do for reading comprehension that's not in the rule book necessarily, but is confidence. All right? Confidence goes a long way to doing well on reading comprehension. All right? Does anybody know why? What happens when you're not confident for reading comprehension, on the reading comprehension section? If you're not confident, what are you likely to do? Hesitate. What else are you likely to do?
You change the answer.
Change the answer. Read too much. Read too much. Right? When you're not confident about what you're doing, many times what you'll do is you'll say, well, let me read the next sentence. And let me read the next sentence because I'm not sure, I don't know. I think this is the answer. I'm about 70% sure this is the answer, but I want to be sure. So I'm going to read more. Or I'm going to check the bad answers and see if they're good. Even though I have found the keyword sentence, I'm pretty sure I found the answer, I'm going to check anyway. And so one thing you have to be able to do on the TOEFL exam for reading comprehension is you have to eliminate that strong desire to want to be 100% correct. Because many times wanting to be 100% correct sometimes comes out of fear. Right? Sometimes comes out of fear. Because if you want to be 100% correct, you're going to want to check everything and double check everything. Right? And if you're confident, you'll look in that question, find those keywords, find that keyword sentence, read that keyword sentence, pick the matching answer, move on. That's confidence. All right? And confidence many times helps you not make small mistakes. And it's those small mistakes many times that separates a 20 from a 23, a 23 from a 25, a 18 from a 21. Really, it's about getting maybe 3 or 4 wrong because you shouldn't, because you decided to change your answer. All right? So, question types. All right, call out for me. What are our question types?
Attitude.
Well, it's not an attitude question.
Yeah. Attitude question.
What else?
Propose question.
What?
Propose.
What is that?
Propose what the answer mentioned. Bad idea.
I'm trying to work on your pronunciation.
Okay, propose. Know how to pronounce.
Purpose.
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 Sorry, purpose.
Yes.
And
We'll avoid the word, there's no hold question.
okay.
All right, there's no hold question. So we can avoid that. What other kind of question do we have?
Okay, negative factual.
Negative factual. Anybody else?
Vocabulary.
Detail. Vocabulary.
Summary.
Summary. Good job, Joe.
Sentence addition.
Sentence addition.
Reference.
Yeah, perfect.
Reference. What else? Chart.
Yeah, chart.
What am I missing?
Paraphrase, right?
Inference. We got purpose.
No.
Oh, preference.
Paraphrase.
Oh, paraphrase.
Paraphrase. Sorry, paraphrase.
All right. All right. What else? That's it?
Yeah.
No.
No. It's all my no. It's already on my notes.
We're missing one. Method.
Oh.
This method question is one on the TOEFL exam they're doing more of. They're not doing the reference question as much. It's pretty easy, actually. But they're doing more of the method question. And the way they're doing the method question more of, it's not even in a lot of the practice material, the method question. But the method question, sometimes they're making it very difficult nowadays. And they're doing it because they'll say, how are paragraphs 2 and 3 organized? Right? How is the passage organized? Right? How does the professor explain this concept in paragraphs 4 and 5? How are paragraphs 1 and 2 related? Right? That's asking about method and organization. And I know recently on the TOEFL exam, they asked that question, and they may have had 2 of them on one passage. Right? And that can be a time-consuming question. A time-consuming question. And so we have to be really, really careful to be able to do that question well, that method question. Okay? Also for questions, sometimes nowadays they'll ask maybe 2 or 3 inference questions on one passage. Or they'll ask 2 or 3 negative factual questions on one passage. Okay? So, they always change things up to try and make it more difficult for students. Or they'll bring in something old that they used to do, that they weren't doing. So a lot of that kind of stuff can happen, in terms of question type. But these are all of our standard question types that we have. Okay? All of our standard question types. All right, so for these question types, there's a basic question answering methodology that we have to use. Now, for certain questions, this methodology doesn't necessarily apply. When you're talking about paraphrase and sentence addition. But for the other questions, this same basic question methodology is going to be very helpful to get a lot of answers correct. But we're going to go over the strategy for all the questions. And then we'll work on applying that strategy to a particular passage. All right, so. All right, basic question answering. Before I get into the basic question answering, though, let me explain to you how the TOEFL people find good answers and find bad answers. All right, where are we on the tape right now? We got time still?
Yeah, 13.
Okay. Let me explain to you how we do, how the TOEFL people find good answers and bad answers, because it's very, very important to understand. Because if you understand, for a test, if you understand how they find those answers, then you'll know what you need to do. The way they find a good answer is the way you're supposed to find a good answer. The way they find bad answers is what you're not supposed to do. Okay? So, all right, when we're talking about finding good answers, okay, ETS picks good answers from one sentence. Right? They pick good answers from one sentence. So your job is to find that sentence. All right? ETS picks good answers from one sentence in a paragraph. Unless, of course, we're talking about a method question or a negative factual question. Those are a little bit different. Okay? Those are a little bit different. But when they're talking about detailed questions, inference questions, those type of questions, many times are answers coming from one sentence. And this really applies more to our detailed questions. All right, and our purpose questions. Because on any exam, you're probably going to have, on one passage, you're always going to have at least, 3 or 4 detailed questions. Right? And you're also going to have, at least 3 or 4 vocabulary questions. Right? Sometimes 2, sometimes between 2 and 4 vocabulary questions, between 2 and 4 detailed questions. So knowing how to do those 2 types of questions is extremely important when you look at the numbers and percentages, right? You may have a total of 7 questions that are only vocabulary and detail. That means the other questions you might have 1 or 2 of. Okay? So this process is extremely important to understand very well. Now, how do they find bad answer choices? Where do bad answers come from? Anybody know?
Surrounding sentences.
Yes, I do well. ETS are the people that make the TOEFL. ETS chooses bad answers from the surrounding sentences. All right? That's what ETS does. They choose bad answers from the surrounding sentences. Okay? That's the way it works. That's their process over and over and over again. Okay? When it comes to the detailed questions and all that kind of stuff. It's that process. So, let's say this is a paragraph, okay? And in this paragraph, we have, I can't count today. I keep putting 1, 1, 3, 6, 7, 10. So if you guys see like number, you don't have to remind me and say, hey, Keno, 2 comes after 1, or 5 comes after 4. All right, I know how to count. All right, let's say it has 6 sentences, right? And that's our keyword sentence. All right? Unless this next sentence starts out with a particular type of language, all right, our answer is going to be in the keyword sentence. All right? The answer is going to come from there. So choice C, if choice C has the same matching information as the keyword sentence, that's where the answer is coming from. The information for choice A, B, and D come from where? B may come from here, right? A may come from here, and D may come from here. Okay? They're going to choose all the answers from that paragraph. Or maybe they'll choose one of the answers from another paragraph. But that's where it's going to come from. Okay? That's why it's so important to be able to read your keyword sentence and only read your keyword sentence. If you read the whole paragraph, what happens? You read all the bad answer choices.
Sometimes I'm afraid that the keyword is in another sentence, so I go to the next sentence and I get misled.
Yes. And that's what I'm saying in terms of being confident in what you're doing.
But the keyword exists in one sentence?
The true keyword from a sentence, right? The true keyword from a sentence. Another thing you have to keep in mind is chronological order. Right? Chronological order is very important. Okay, usually after if question number 4 if question number 4, if question number 4 came from right here, right? The answer for question number 4 came from this sentence. Question number 5 is going to be what? Afterwards. So if you're looking at the keyword language for question number 5, you're not going to look for the answer before question number 4. All right? So you want to be confident in your process, because if you read too much, you're going to read the bad answer choices. And then you have more in your head that you're considering. Right? Now, you still might find the answer, but what are you going to do? Waste time. Waste time. That's what ends up happening. And time is your enemy. Right? For the exam. So that's how the TOEFL people find and pick good answers and pick bad answers. This comes from one sentence, basically. All right? So, now our basic question answering process, we'll stop right there, and then we'll pick up and we'll go into the basic question answering process.